Hi guys, and welcome to the first episode of A Girl's Guide 2. This week we've got the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. So welcome to the cockpit of the Quadrifoglio. Now, compared to its competitors, the F80 M3 and the C63 AMG, it doesn't quite have the same level of quality. It obviously has all the carbon that you would expect from a car like this, you know, on the center console, on the dashboard. This wheel, I have to admit, is absolutely great with the Alcantara and the carbon bottoms. It feels great in hand. The paddles, they feel quality and they have a nice depth of click, if you know what I mean, and they're very responsive. We'll get onto the gearbox in a little bit. My one gripe, I will say, with this car that I've been given, I didn't get the carbon back sport seats, which I know are an optional extra. They really tie in the carbon and the Alcantara and make the whole thing feel a little bit more racy inside. That aside, cup holders. Now, I don't know about you, but cup holders to me are very important. This has one cup holder just here, which with my can of Coke, you have to really force it in and then force it back out, which I know may only be a small thing, but to me it's really important. And in here we have two slightly, they're trying to be cup holders, but they're not. But again, that's my own personal choice. Center console, plenty of stuff, plenty of room that you can fit in there. Considering that the doors are so small, you can comfortably fit 4 people in here. In the back, there's comfortable leg room and plenty of adjustment. One thing that I also do love is the adjustment on the steering wheel. Now for me, who's got kind of like T-Rex arms but long legs, you can put it in, you can pull it up, and it's got a lot of adjustments, so you can really get used to your driving position here. And that for me is really important. So here we have the steering wheel of the Giulia, and you have the carbon, the Alcantara and the leather composites on here, which do make it feel very luxurious. These buttons don't actually light up at night, so it can be a bit of a nightmare when you're trying to change track in the dark, but it's not a big deal. This makes it feel very racy. I love a start-stop on a car. I like the way the red stitching is tied in with the leather and the Alcantara. You've got the Alfa Romeo emblem embossed into the headrest. It is quality. It's not quite up to the par of the M3 and the C63, but it definitely passes. Alfa Romeo have 100% stepped up their game with this car. So with a boutique car like this, it's always important to know how much stuff can you actually fit in here. Whether it's 2 suitcases, 3 suitcases. For this series, I'm going to be using it in Becky's. How many of me can you actually fit in here? Now, comfortably, you can fit, I'd say, me and a half. It's a good size boot space, and if you get the optional extra, you can get the seats that actually flip down. In this model, we don't actually have it, but I know that there is the optional extra for that. So yeah, as far as boot space goes, there's quite a lot of room.
Our inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of...
I mean, looking at the outside of the car, you've got the obvious sort of carbon bits. You've got the carbon little spoiler here, and the rear diffuser makes it look super racy with the quad exhaust exits. I mean, it has all the look of a real sporty saloon. Gloss black window trim, carbon side skirts. There was an option for a carbon roof, but this car that I've been given hasn't got roof on there, which I think personally would have added to the look of this car. But then again, I really wanted the sport seat. As we can see from under here, you've got the carbon skin bonnet. A lot of the rationale behind the Quadrifoglio was weight saving, so this is rather light. These wheels are not the optional ones that you can get. These look a little bit like TSW Venoms, if anyone knows what I'm talking about here. And here we have the from factory Brembo twin caliper setup. The stopping power on this car is really proven, especially when you're doing a little bit over the speed limit. For those of you that didn't know, Quadrifoglio is the 4-leaf clover. I tend to enjoy with the BMW the meatier proportions on the high-powered saloons. It's not quite as wide as I would like it to be, but But don't get me wrong, it's still a very pretty car. And what would you expect from Alfa? So what about performance? Now this is my favourite part of the Quadrifoglio. So the Quadrifoglio is obviously playing with the big boys when it comes to the power, trying to rival the F80 M3 and the C63. This is running an aluminium block, turbocharged 2.9 V6, and believe me, it really does pack a punch. One thing that I do really like about this car, having driven an Alfa before, I had the 4C when we were in Italy, the gearbox on that for the twin clutch was so unresponsive, whereas this is impeccable. It's sharp, it has, as I said before, the great depth of click, it feels quality when you change gear, and the responsiveness is excellent, and that is putting out 503 brake horsepower with 443 foot-pounds of torque. Now believe me, that really does shift, and that takes it from 0 to 62. I know that's a bit weird, I don't understand why it's always to 62, but whatever, to in 3.9 seconds. You've got 4 different driving modes. Advanced efficiency, which I'm in now, which quietens the exhaust node, softens the suspension, and apparently gets you through at 33 miles per gallon, which with an engine of this power is quite impressive. Then obviously natural and dynamic, but where most fun can be had is in race mode, and it stiffens up the suspension, again opens up that exhaust, and you can really hammer it. It's a lot of fun. With this car being turbocharged, sometimes with fly-by-wire throttle you can find that you get quite a bit of turbo lag. With this, it's actually virtually non-existent. You can put your foot down and the power is there straight away. I mean, it's just wicked. The great thing about this car as well, it's extremely stable. I mean, coming out of a dead T-junction, you'd think you'd be able to get it a little bit sideways, but it's there. It's straight in, it doesn't kick out. It's probably one of the more stable rear-wheel drive cars that I've ever driven. I did actually search on Google to see if you could turn the traction control completely off, but in race mode it is technically off, but as I said, completely stable coming out of just a straight T-junction. With that great steering position that you can put yourself into, you can really get to feel how the car reacts. There's so much front end grip that when you're pitching it in, it's really there. I mean, it's just so powerful, and even for an inexperienced to experienced driver, there's a lot of fun that you can have with it. I mean, I'm completely sold. I mean, Alfas have never really been my thing, but this car has impressed me intensely. I realise that a lot of girls might be a little bit put off by a rear-wheel drive high-power car like this, but I have to admit, it is incredibly drivable. Low speeds, you're cruising. High speeds, you can control it, and that's the main thing. Having confidence behind the wheel, this definitely gives you it.
Our inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true.
And so this concludes my review on the Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio. I have had a brilliant 2 days with this car, and I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. The only thing that's letting it down is the interior, but smiles, I've had a million of them in this thing. So let me know what you thought, tell me what cars you want to see me do next, and yeah, like, subscribe, tell me what you think, and I'll see you soon next time.
I am enticed, know me standards, and I just walked up.